These days, whenever I go to an international conference, one of the speakers would call all the audience to be ready for some kind of physical exercises to break the monotony. Well, I'm not going to ask you to start exercising, but I thought I should maybe do it for myself. Chairman Mr. Bhakre, my esteemed colleagues of the dais, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for inviting me, and it's a great pleasure for me to be here amongst you today. When I was reading through the headline of the panel that I'm speaking under, I found it a little paradoxical that why the schemes and enabling policies are required to promote energy efficiency. Why on earth you would require to do that? After all, nobody comes up with a scheme to promote and tell you that you should save money. You should be saving money on your own. You should be saving energy on your own without having any scheme. Before I come back to this question, I take you to a little different route. In 2006, I came across a very fantastic book named Elusive Quest for Growth, Economist Adventures and Misadventures in Tropics. It was written by William Easterly. He has been a World Bank insider. He worked with World Bank. And he mapped the development interventions that World Bank carried out since late 1940s after Bretton Woods institutions came into being. And he found that one of the most important models that was used was called Howard-Domar model, in which the World Bank seems to have figured it out that if you want a particular country to grow, say at 5%, how much investment would be required for it to grow at 5%? So if you could ensure that this much of investment go into the country, then it would start growing. And the investment naturally would come from the internal sources initially, like savings. So if savings are coming, X amount of investment is required, savings are coming, or the country has been able to, you can say, bring on table X by 2% of what is required. X by 2 is given by the World Bank as aid. So the model was like this: aid to investment to growth. The problem with the model had been that it failed spectacularly for the last 50 years, almost in every country. This was the crux of the book. And mind you, he was a World Bank insider. And he concluded that why this has happened. And he says that this has happened because people respond to incentives no matter what you say. Our behavior, our rational behavior is governed by incentives. So today, what I intend to share with you is the kind of incentives that are required to shape up the behavior of the rational human beings that all of us are. And that also, in a sense, answers the question why energy efficiency is not a way of life at majority of MSMEs because of the constraints. I place before you 3 constraints. The first is the technology. Now, you must have, of course, discussed this issue earlier. But if you look at the MSME from the technology from the perspective of MSME, how is it acquired? You don't do a technology acquisition agreement with anybody. You buy plant and machinery. So technology and know-how comes embedded in the machine. And from where you buy this from a plant and machinery supplier. And from where the plant and machinery supplier gets this knowledge, probably he just copied it from somewhere, from his colleagues, from peers. And that's how it all started. So one of the major things that you would see if you start working with MSMEs is that there is tremendous amount of path dependency in technology. The same or similar type of technology keeps on going for decades and decades together. Why? Because investment in know-how and knowledge is or has what we call as public attributes. That means if you invest, it is not guaranteed that ultimately the benefits will follow only to you. The knowledge leaks. You come out with some new machine, your competitor copies it, his competitor copies it, and the original producer of the machine may not get all the benefit. That is one of the major issues why you would not be having a lot of investments in knowledge. And that is why To break this alliance, what is needed, or what has actually happened all over the world, is a holy alliance between government, industry, and science and technology institutions. Unfortunately, science and technology institutions and MSMEs, they work in different silos altogether in India. That needs to break. The second is finance. Now, finance is also very interesting. Again, it was discussed yesterday, but let me take this to little one-up orbit. First of all, you'd be surprised to know that among the MSMEs, less than 5% MSMEs have access to institutional funds. 95% don't have any access to institutional funds or banks. So just 5% of them have access to institutional funds. Not only that, MSMEs is a very small subset of business enterprise universe that we have in India. It excludes transportation, it used to exclude retail, it used to, you can say, exclude a very large number of enterprises that are covered under different ministries, for example, textile and so on and so forth. So MSME is a ministry of MSME definition, which is a very small definition, but it doesn't cover all the economic actors of our economy. Another important thing is, and this is a very fundamental thing, that the more poor or impoverished the people, the more primitive will be the technologies that they would be using. It's a global phenomenon. Go anywhere. Within India, go to Punjab, you will find that the farmers will be using far more advanced agriculture implements and tractors, and you go to Bihar, you will find that people are still somehow doing with, buffaloes and stuff. Similarly, if you compare a farmer of, say, US farmer or a European farmer or an Indian farmer, you'll be amazed the kind of machines that they employ. So that means use of technology has a direct correlation with the availability of funds and capital. Mind you, this is extremely important lesson that all of us should carry. That more capital surplus in economy, the more technology advanced would be the economy. And more deficient we will be in capital, in particular economy, the more deficient also or more poor will be in technology. So if we really want technological upgradation to take place, we have to work very, very hard to increase the flow of funds, tremendous amount of flow of funds, then only it would happen. And third, an important element is the governance. See, no matter what we say, what we discuss, maybe by utilizing some technology, we could save 10%, 15%, 20% by employing different methods. But what are we really saying? In the MSME sector, if you go to the clusters, you will find there's such deficiency of electricity supply. They are forced to deploy generators, and generators are guzzlers of inputs, and they are most inefficient producer of electricity. So much so that, you know, if the electricity of a typical industry is getting at 4 to 5 rupees or 6 rupees in different states, if the generator will come in the range of 8 rupees to 14 rupees, you just imagine the kind of inefficiency we are talking about, 100 to 50%, 200%. By saving better technology, we are saving 20%, and by using generators, we are throwing up 100%. So the very, very important point is that all of us come together and see that how industrial clusters, particularly, for example, my colleague Dr. Veena mentioned in the beginning that how we focus on certain clusters that are guzzlers of energy, that are energy intensive sectors, and we ensure that they get ensured power supply. My colleague from Tirupura mentioned about that there is a better availability of power quality at the higher level of voltage. He's absolutely correct. 66,000 kV and above, you have power all the time almost. It's grid level. But taking money directly at the cluster level is impossible because of the policy dispensation. So somehow we all have to work together and say that how, for example, we can ensure that you can draw electricity from 66,000 kV at a cluster and distribute. Currently, it is not possible. There are policy impediments in between. So reforms are required in power sector that how, for example, clusters, associations can collectively get this power and distribute this power. Financial sector reforms are required so that we have enough amount of funds available for technology upgradation. The schemes that we have, my colleague mentioned about maybe 20, 25 schemes. These are exotic schemes, benefited 50 companies, 100 companies, 1,000 companies here and there. We are talking about 26 million enterprises just in the MSME space. So these schemes have not touched even 0.00001% of MSME sector. by this we will not be able to solve the problem in next 1,000 years. We have to think out of the box and give a big push and think big. And that could come only with the help of power sector reform, financial sector reforms, and also by creating right kind of incentives that we don't have. And lastly, on the SAMEEKSHA part, I think we're extremely happy, and we must congratulate all the, you can say, institutions that come together and form SAMEEKSHA. But at the same time, I would also like to say that while working with MSME, it looks like, coming with the statement saying, here we come to save you. We are this institution, we are that institution, we are this ministry, we are that minister, and here we come to save you. I think that's not the right approach. The approach is that partner MSME sector as a whole. Bring them on board. SAMEEKSHA should have courted MSME associations, at least a dozen MSME associations of the country, and form a group so that they become part of this process and not just the beneficiary of the process. You have to take the debate at a higher level. It's not that let me come and help you. It's not about helping. It's about taking the debate at a higher level and saying, let's together make India more efficient. Thank you very much.